I want to just quickly go over your homework, which was question 3.1 from page 18 in the workbook, 17 and 18 or whatever it was. So the first step that they have you do is they give you this demand function and that supply function and tell you that the tax is $1.50 per bar. A couple of things on setup. Make sure, because especially on paper 3, this is just an easy way or a dumb way to lose points. Make sure that you get the units correctly, both the currency, but also more importantly here, make sure that when you write your answer, that you're multiplying everything by 1,000. If you look back at the instructions, it says this is the demand and supply function for thousands of chocolate bars. Okay, question 1. You just had to solve for equilibrium, so we're going to do simultaneous equations. And we come up with equilibrium price of 3, which we've shown here, and then a equilibrium quantity of 600, which is shown there. Again, it says to make sure that you indicate that on the diagram, so you need to have P star 1 and Q star 1 next to the numbers 600 and 3. If you only have 3 and you only have 600, or if you don't have the 3 and the 600, but just the labels, neither of those are okay. You need to give the number and indicate that it's equilibrium. Okay, question 2 is here. So it says, okay, now we're going to put in the tax of $1.50 per bar. So we're just going to do QS, QS equals 200p, and we're going to take p and subtract out 1.5. So we distribute and we get negative 300 plus 200p. The second part of that question is to draw it. So you should see on your diagram that the vertical distance from here up, if you took that over, that should be 3 plus 1.5. So this point right here should be 4.5. You don't need to label that, but that's just a way of checking that you have it right. That'll become important again in just a second. You also needed to indicate the new equilibrium. So again, we've taken the new supply function, and just like what we did here, we're just going to repeat those steps. And we get a new equilibrium price of 4 and a new equilibrium quantity of 500, again indicating that that is the new equilibrium with the P star 2 and Q star 2. Question 3 is we have to look for the change in consumer expenditure. So remember, this is money that the consumers were paying. So before the tax, they were buying 600 at a price of 3, so this black rectangle. Now they're buying 500 at a price of 4, so this red rectangle here. So it was 3 times 600, so 1,800, now it's 2,000. That's not the answer though, the answer is what is the change? So the change from 2,000 to 1,800 is positive 200. And you would need to make sure that you indicated, that it was positive there. Also, sorry, I'm stammering because I'm just noting that it's actually not 200, is it? I made the mistake that I warned you guys not to make. It's 200 times 1,000. So really, that would be the correct answer, 200,000. So -1 for me, but I caught it, so I think I'm okay. All right, now we're going to ask for change in revenue for the producer. Here we have to look at, so again, it was, their revenue was equal to the expenditure. I'm not going to do a formula there, I'm just going to point out that they used to be the exact same, so it was 1,800. Now, we don't actually know yet, we don't have that information. So what we know is on the diagram that what the producers are going to get is along this dotted line where it intersects the original supply curve. That's the number they're going to get. But we don't know what that is. You could do this in 2 ways. You could take this quantity, 500, and plug it into the new supply function, and you would get the right answer. Or you could just remember that that vertical distance, just like that's 1.5, it's 1.5 there as well, because the 2 lines are parallel. So if that's 4, then this is 1.5 less than 4, that is, it's 2.5. Okay? So this is going to be 2.5 times 500, which is going to be 1,250. So 1,800 minus 1,250 is negative 550,000. Number 5, what's the government revenue? So it's going to be the amount of the tax, which we said was 1.5, no calculation necessary, and the new quantity, so that's going to be $750,000. Do note that if you take the producer revenue and the consumer revenue, and the government revenue, those two together will add up to what the consumers are paying. So remember, this is what the consumers are paying, the red box. The consumers are getting this down here, and the government is getting 1.5 times 500 here. So it's got to equal to the consumer expenditure. Number 6 is you need to calculate the value, the loss of consumer surplus. It's actually a bit of a controversial topic. Not controversial, but it can be a bit confusing. We'll talk about it more in class. The loss is only area A. The consumers no longer get this rectangle either, but because it's transferred to the government, we don't really consider it a loss of consumer surplus. It's just that somebody else has it now. So it's a little bit different concept. Anyway, so we just need to calculate the value of area A there, or triangle A. And of course, we can see that A has a rise, or one side is 3 to 4, so a side of 1. And then the other side is here, so it's 500 to 600, so it's 100. So it's 1 times 100 divided by 2, so it changes by negative 50,000. Again, we have to multiply it by 1,000, okay? Here too, it's important not to forget the negative. It asks for a change, so we need to indicate that it decreased, and then by how much it decreased. For producer surplus, its change again is just this other triangle here, triangle B. Remember, those two together add up to the welfare loss. And again here, the one side is a height of 0.5, and the base is still 100, so it's 0.5 times 100 divided by 2, which is negative 25,000. Okay, that's it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below.